Taking care of our associates is important. It's demonstrated and paid back in other ways. Demonstrated recently in Tripoli when we had to evacuate our hotel. 186 associates, 3 customers left in the hotel. We couldn't get them out by bus to Tunisia. The Schlumberger caravan had been attacked and women raped and men badly injured. Couldn't get them out on the boat. You all saw the boat that we rented. The American Embassy had it, and it was stuck in the harbor, though that was Plan B. Plan C was commercial aircraft, and that didn't work because we had people return because the airlines would only take their own people. That left us with the plan we hadn't gotten, where we had to go out and find an aircraft which was used by the UN in Africa and came with its own armed security detachment. We were able, after 7.5 hours of working our way through that airport, to get all of our associates on that aircraft and get them to safety. And all associates have been reassigned to other hotels. That tells our associates that we're going to take care of them. There was not an American in that group. They were 50% Filipino and Moroccan and all the other nationalities. But everybody in Marriott knows that Marriott will take care of its people. That's important. And where that payback comes happened recently in Cairo. The Minister of Interior, I happened to go to Cairo from February 4th through 10th. Part of my job was to go see our associates and represent the company. One of the things that had happened was the Minister of Interior pulled the police off all the hotels and out of the city for reasons that we could spend hours on. And when they did, that left our gates unguarded with arms. Our security are not armed in Cairo. And as a result, we had people howling because we had 500 media in our hotel, except for Anderson Cooper, who was going, "I'm in an undisclosed location." By the way, he was in the Ramses Hilton. I know what the room looked like. But the fact of the matter is, the rest of them were all in the hotel. And while they were there, we had to protect them. This is where it all comes back. We had guards with nobody behind them, no arms. We had howling crowds outside the gates. Our culinarians in their white picked up the knives, marched out, and took positions behind the security team at the 3 gates. The housekeepers picked up their brooms and backed up the culinarians. Now, they're not foolish, knives, brooms. But I always tingle when I think about it. And the engineers, being the smartest of all, came out with their shovels and positioned themselves behind the housekeepers, the culinarians, and the security team. Needless to say, the gangs did not want to try to take this group on. And in 4 hours, the military arrived with their tanks and soldiers. This is what I mean about culture. This is what I mean about people who are not highly compensated, who believe, as 30-year employees in many cases in that hotel, that they believe in the company they work for and the mission and what is important. So hopefully, in our days ahead, we as industry can continue to instill in our associates, and you as leaders and educators can motivate your people for values that we've seen day in and day out. Sometimes, and hopefully they'll never see something like we've seen, but go beyond just what is expected. Thank you for your time. Have a great meeting. Pardon? Sure. Yeah, I'll take questions. Yeah.
Before we say goodbye to Mr. Fuller, we'd like to make sure that you have a little chance or opportunity to ask some questions of him. So,
I know I stand between cocktail hour, and so I'm more than willing to back off. But if you have a question, I'll be glad to take it. I see a hand in back, and I'll repeat it if you can yell it at me. That, to me, is one of the biggest challenges we will have, but the brands have been doing this very well in some areas, and we need to improve in others. We're not perfect. In our Courtyards, Fairfield Inns, and all the Town Place Suites and our smaller brands, which are primarily franchised today, they have always held their meeting annually, even in the worst of times. We've had probably one canceled in the last 15, 20 years. That annual meeting, our franchise owners use as a reward for their people. But it is instilled with culture, reinforcement, and the like. Then there is training. And the training crew does a lot of work with the managers, both as we bring new hotels in and as they continue to exist. It is probably, for the brand companies, the biggest challenge they will face. But when it comes really down to it, what really separates setting the tone is the actions of our regional teams, our division people. And so when Bill Marriott visits a franchise or a managed hotel, he sets the tone by his actions, by walking around, by being on the dock, by spending time shaking hands. So when I was in Egypt, we have 4,000 associates in Egypt. I shook hands with about 2,000 associates. Now, I didn't see them all, but they knew we were there, and they knew we were giving them a smile and an opportunity. Setting a tone is as important as anything else. So when Bill Marriott goes into that kitchen and inspects the box and finds the milk that's 2 days over, it's not finding the milk, it's setting the tone. And that's what we try to transfer. We have been insisting on the management side. That's what we try to transfer in the franchise. It's not easy. Yes, sir. Ma'am, I saw him.
Marriott Adams, and I teach at a community college, so the students are extremely young. And I tried to experiment last semester. I made them read the Marriott book, Marriott Way. And they had to do weekly book reports and discuss operations of associates. And I think it was a really valuable experience because, first of all, they got to see another point of view of how customer service is done, how Marriott handles their employees. And I just want to say I wish that book was published because you had to buy it on Amazon.com. It is no longer available. But
I will bring that message back, and so will Steve.
it was a great experiment to use that book in class as a role model.
Well, that wasn't a question. We'll take that as an endorsement. And you can have them read my book when you get a chance. Yes, sir.
From University of South Florida. As you know, English has become an international language. Wherever you go, you can get by if you speak English. And you being in the international arena, and we as the educators are not doing very well job in teaching our students another language because we depend on English and it's pretty much enough. Do you see that we as the educators should force or enforce our students to learn another language? Like you were saying, emerging countries, China, whatever that might be.
The question was language, and should we be pushing language, second language, or even a third language in our educational programs? Candidly, if you are going to operate a hotel for Marriott in Latin America, you speak Spanish or Portuguese. It's the bottom line. So if you're going overseas, that's it. If you're going to deal in China, you're going to speak Chinese. But the fact is, let's think about all those people coming to the U.S. Today in a Marriott hotel domestic, there are approximately 21 different nationalities. That means our associates, the people we work with, speak different languages. And when an associate's having a problem, they feel more comfortable with someone who's sensitive in their language. Spanish is a tremendous help in operating a U.S. hotel. And you know, many of your states don't get involved in this, but California work laws are terrible. And one of the things we learned 20 years ago was that if we use Spanish-speaking managers to work with an injured employee who was Spanish, we had less lawyers involved. I can even make a formula out of that. So there is a need for language in the U.S. There will be a greater need. I have had several of our senior managers try to learn Mandarin at 40. We've had personal counselors. If you have children, if you have friends who have young children, while they are virtually crawling across the floor, start them on Mandarin. Mandarin, Spanish, and English, the three languages of the world. And English is not control the world. I would disagree. We may think it does, but the fact of the matter is we have to deal in other languages. Yes, ma'am. Well, I don't want to tell you this, but actually it's on the block right now in these cuts, which has us terrorized. And I feel very strongly about this act. A fellow named Roger Dow, if you may have heard Roger speak, he's great, really was the instigator behind pushing this, and Bill Marriott and a lot of the other industry, now I'll tell you they're good guys too, a lot of the other industry leaders got behind it. It is part of the answer to the problem that I was talking about, because we've never promoted the destination. The California commission that I work on promotes California, does a masterful job. This promotion, which we're talking about, is designed to sell the entire United States. And it has great potential once it's executed. But if we don't solve the problem at the borders, having the best ads in the world is not going to solve it. And if you're an international individual in this room and have ever gotten through immigration in the United States, it is not a pleasant undertaking. The Chinese for the Olympics get my award for the smartest move, because originally when you went into China, your immigration officer had no name tag, just a number. And they treated you that way because you became a number. For the Olympics, they put a little device in front of each immigration officer. And when you liked your process, you hit a happy face. If you didn't like the process, you hit a negative face. Your immigration officer became much friendlier right away. The other example I give is that Thailand put their immigration officers, they took them out during the crisis, but they put the immigration officers in aloha shirts. Let me tell you, it sets a tone. Rather than a Glock and a dark blue uniform that would scare the hell out of me. And so, you know, that's a priority for us. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off track, but the program's great. I just hope it doesn't get cut. Any other questions?
Well,
Okay.
I would like to thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming back up.